Told my boss that I'm done. Had no luck with my mom. Say, what will you do with your life? You know it's hard to survive. A cigar in my mouth. Maybe guilty but proud. Now I'm an outlaw on the run. Dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running low. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running low. Keep running low.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here at Risen. I'm Dia. I'm joined by RMC, and hey, the team started draft, so they're eager to get going. As I was, we can try and make this work. We're not going to get any time to set up the teams for right now. We'll pop right into it. Let's sort of weave some narrative in here, RMC, because we found ourselves in round 2 of the playoffs with an Udyr ban. See on Paramos?
Okay, and we have a missing. Okay, you know what? This draft is getting kind of messy here. We're probably just gonna go ahead and remake this draft.
Okay. So
we will have time.
we're getting a remake of the draft, but importantly, we have been thrown in here, so we are gonna have a little bit of time. I'm gonna take a deep breath. Okay, round 2 of the playoffs, RMC. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad that we're getting Wichita Wolves back on stream with us too, because the last time that you and I cashed them together, they were going up against Cairo. This time against the much stronger, I dare say, Miami University Redhawks. They have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they're not really comparable. One was group stages, the others is now playoffs. This is the winner side of playoffs, which means that to get here, you had to beat most of the teams, if not all the teams, in your group already, and then beat somebody in the first round. In this case, Wichita Wolves and Miami are both currently undefeated series-wise. They have not dropped a single series. So tonight should be pretty big.
Yes, and we're expecting it to be big, and we were talking about this a little bit, especially around that top lane for the Miami University Redhawks. It's worth noting that they've recently had to switch up their mid laners due to a rank out. So Pluto is what I'm calling him, is going to be taking the place of their previous mid laner, and it's as they go into the second round of the playoffs, no less. So it's actually really big stakes for this team, and I'm hoping that they've had enough time to gel.
Yeah, on top of that here, Pluto was a support main for the most part here. So coming in, having to switch up to mid, that might be a bit of a difference. And here we go. It looks like the draft is back up again here, and still with that Udyr ban to start things off.
All right, we make our return, and I like the consistency of the Udyr here. It's something that I really like for Miami, because they're more than willing to take the Hecarim, but Udyr hasn't necessarily translated into priority for them. I'm expecting Wichita to need to take away that Hecarim here, and that's something that we'll see develop over the course of the series, especially with Mayamo playing for Miami. You can't really leave such a big power pick up, and it's a game of power picks right now with Tristana and Thresh taking them as well.
Yeah, and the one thing we're kind of glossing over, the Sejuani ban
It's the
coming
boar
up.
in the room.
Yeah, and I gotta point out too, this might not be a Sejuani jungle that they're taking on. It could be a Sejuani top. Has been coming in. I think we just saw it in LPL just this morning here. And on top of that, I can't remember if it was Miami who did pull it out before in the or if their players have pulled it out sometime before in the league. But Sejuani top is apparently a thing, ladies and gents.
Yeah, that's something that on Lucent you do have to pay respect to, as well as, of course, the ability for it to be flexed. It's apparently Sejuani top is a legal maneuver. I like that Wichita have opted to take away that Hecarim, and it leaves Miami, importantly, with things like Senna and Tom Kench up, because they don't like to play the strong side bot, but instead they opt for a Scion. Is this true?
Okay,
It's
I mean,
Lilia. It's Lilia.
okay, I was gonna say that's a really odd maneuver, I would think, but yeah, because the Lilia is, I think, a much stronger jungler for both these junglers, for both Snow and Miyamo. I was thinking with Hecarim off the table for Miyamo, at least Lilia, those are champions that he seems to excel on best. But the immediate answer back from Wichita here interests me because IBN, the ADC for Miami, has preferred mostly Senna and Jinx, and you've left open the Senna here. You're taking away the Jinx, so you better have a plan to
So
deal
easy.
yeah, with the Senna
Hey.
Tom Kench, which they almost always default to.
Yeah, this is such a gift to the Miami University Redhawks. They've been playing around this very weak side bot, and it's a lane that can neutralize one of your big carries for Wichita Wolves.
Yeah, because when we look at who carries on these teams for Miami, it's traditionally been Lucent in the top lane and Troy in the mid lane. Now Troy's gone, we've got questions about Pluto. Whereas for Wichita Wolves, it's traditionally been Grim being their absolute carry, PBN and Mabud being secondary carries with the potential to pop off here. So when you give over that Senna Tom Kench, like you mentioned, Grim now has a sort of a more nullified lane. And when you pick the Jinx, Jinx doesn't usually win or dominate lanes either. So a bit questionable. The Skarner pick, that I like, does very well into the Hecarim, into the Lilia, these quadrupeds. So having that Skarner there just seems to fit so well into what they wanted.
I think he might. I'm not actually sure. Is he a quadruped? Is he? He
He's
might be
not, but-
actually artificially inflating the number of legs.
Well, actually, yeah.
Economically, just pushing us over the edge. I want to check out what that last ban was from Wichita, because ProDraft unfortunately has missed it. This is a Lucian ban for them, and we're banning away these very lane dominant picks, following that with something like a Camille here. I really like for Miami because they're taking away a little bit of that secondary threat in Mabud here, and something that, or rather, a player that we've talked about potentially being able to contest Lucent is being narrowed down in champion pool.
Yeah, I'm not too terribly worried about the champion pools for either of these top laners here. Both Lucent and Mablood play a lot of champions. I'm more concerned for Pluto coming in because we kind of touched on it that
Yeah.
Pluto was a support main, so their mid lane champion pool might not be that deep. And taking away that Lucian, taking away that Corki here, it really looks like they want to put them on something more magic heavy. And Pluto's magic champion pool, for the most part, is fairly passive. Things like the Galio, like the Malzahar. There is still the Syndra and Silas option here, but they've taken away the Silas. So really, if you're looking for aggressive picks from the mid lane for Pluto, right now, based on just what I can see from the OPGG, it looks like only Syndra's left.
Yeah, right now they're considering a Silas, which would be an interesting. Sorry, not Silas. A Silas is locked in. They consider a Set, and they end up locking in as well. Set has fallen a little further away from the meta than than you'd be used to if you tuned in at the beginning of 2020, and it's going to be a Set mid
Yep.
of all things.
Yep. Okay. I like that adjustment coming through from the side of Miami here because first of all, Pluto does play a lot of Set. It is a support champion as well, and it's another sort of nullifying lane here. So for the side of Miami, their mid, their bot lanes right now are going to be fairly safe, and they can look to play around that Nar, which does have carry potential, around Lucent, who has carry potential, and that Lilia as well from Miyamo.
This is an interesting pivot, though, because by locking in the Anivia, you have moved that Silas up into the top side of the map. And let's see, with Galio support, Silas top, Anivia mid, you've actually managed to get yourself a flex that is going to be really, really good for the mid laner specifically. And that's where the secondary carry in PBN needs to really step up big. You've got yourself this investment in the Anivia, and it equalizes some of the scaling, but Miami, they've still got a strong comp.
And I'd argue too that the flex for Silas from mid to top is not even a bad flex by any means here going into the Gnar. We've seen it done quite a lot, Dia, in multiple regions where you pick that Silas, and yes, you do lose out early against the range poke that mini Gnar puts out. But once you get a couple of items here, you are able to start punishing that Gnar if you ever do manage to gap close. And with Silas too, there's the question: is this going to be that more traditional, Zhonya's Hour Silas, which has an earlier power spike? Or are we looking at the Manamune build, which has been more and more prevalent,
Hmm.
but also does mean a delayed power spike and a rougher laning phase?
And I actually want to pose that question to you, RMC. That is, can you delay your power spike as Wichita? Because I look at the composition from Miami and I don't see anything that's inherently going to push the pace of the game.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I mean, you do have the Skarner, and I feel like that is pretty much the only pick. And even then, Snow, or previously known as Method, will have to be very aggressive with it, will have to look to make action happen. They do have the Jinx and they do have the Nivea. Those two are great at stalling out games, and maybe that's what they're looking for. Slow things down a bit, just go for those objectives, try and get Baron, and go from there. Because I think the tools you have with the Jinx, with the Anivia, and with the Galio, it's very difficult to dislodge Wichita once they've set up on neutral ground.
Yeah, and being a composition that wants to push into Wichita isn't something that Miami realistically excel at. I keep looking at the
Yeah.
Scion and thinking that they have
Yeah.
that, but they don't. And that means that they're actually lacking engage in a big way. Scion, at the very least, can provide you that. Lilia, not realistically anywhere close to similar in terms of what she provides. This is going to be a lot of team fight utility and a lot put on the shoulders of Mayamo, and he is the one that I'm really looking at in the early game for Miami to visit that top lane to get that snowballing, because otherwise Miami are going to arrive at the mid game where Wichita have a bunch of tools in a team fight and they're still waiting for Senna to scale.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't go as far as say they're missing Engage in a big way. I think they're missing in a mini way because
Okay.
Mega Nart too is Engage here if Lucent can find the engages right. And that I feel like is the caveat that we have to throw on everything. Anytime you see a Nar here, it's always can the Nar position properly. And I feel like for Miami here, if there is a player you can look at to potentially reliably engage, it probably will be Lucent here. So we'll have to watch that rage bar, watch the positioning of Lucent to get off that Mega Nar. If not, like you said, they're relying very heavily on Miyamo going fishing, getting those throw seeds there, and then getting the lilting lullaby off. The good news is that for majority of the members of Wichita, if you do land on the Jinx, Silas, or Anivia, those are all ideal engage champions,
Mhm.
or pardon me, engage targets for you to go onto. And if you do land it on, say, Snow here, you can actually look to punish Snow a little bit, get that poke down, and then when they try and engage into you, there is always the showstopper as well to counter engage and let you get an easier engage off with Miyamo or Lucent.
Yeah, there's a lot of lockdown for the side of the Miami University Redhawks, and something that I want to throw into this game is that if you're Wichita Wolves and at any point in the game you find yourself trying to force an engage, you're likely doing it wrong and you're likely going to lose the fight. Miami University Redhawks, with the tools that they have, if you're not getting that perfect Skarner pick, an extended team fight where you're running into things like Lilia, Senna, Set, Nar, you're just not going to win.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. And so I think, despite the way the compositions are geared towards the late game tier, it's the early game that matters
Mhm.
right here because all those sort of weaknesses we're talking about can be rectified quite easily with gold and with items. If you're far ahead enough, gold makes the world go round, right? So
Yeah.
get your early ganks off. If you can absolutely punish Miyamo, take him out of the game, then you can engage freely because Miami at that point will be lacking any magic damage in their damage profile. And if Miyamo is very vulnerable, very squishy, then you have freedom to go into their jungle, cut them off, look for those dives onto another squishy mini Nar, or potentially onto a Senna, onto a Tahm Kench.
Yeah, keep your eyes on these junglers and on the lanes as Miami University Redhawks are going to look to pull away ahead, arrive to objectives first, and well, really just play the game with a little bit more tempo than the side of Miami University Redhawks, because that's what they need in order to make this a win for them. We'll find out what happens though once we get into the game here in the second round of the playoffs. RMC, I'm excited to get into it, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes with Wichita Wolves Black versus the Miami University Redhawks. Gents, I'm excited to see how this game plays out as Wichita Wolves Black are going up against the Miami University Red Hawks. We have heard your plea, chat, and we are correcting the stream as we speak. Both teams are expected to be quite strong, actually, in this early game, as they've all gotten their hands on exactly what they wanted, which is sort of a weird thing to say. Where I was expecting, personally, Senna Tom Kench to be taken away and Nivea to be denied, and we didn't see any of that. Instead, these teams both take the gamble, they give everybody what they're comfortable on.
Yep, and I'm very worried about giving IBN and Cleve this Senna Tom Kench, because for most of the season, the Red Hawks' weakest lane has looked like their bot lane with this, with IBN playing a lot of weak side champions like the Senna, like the Jinx, and you give them that Senna and you don't have something to punish it. It just feels like that's exactly what they want, and now they don't have to worry about the bot lane. They can look to snowball a winning lane, such as that Gnar into Sylas matchup.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of tools to do so as well, because Lilia brings quite a bit of damage into both of these lanes, the Gnar and the Set respectively, where those two lanes can bring a lot of not only damage of their own, but lockdown as well. And with all of that power latent in these lanes, it's going to give Miami University Redhawks a time to start their jungle pathing aggressively.
Wow, okay, yeah. No joke about that aggression. I mean, Miyamo is known to be a very strong early game jungler, but this is a whole different... This is a bit of a delayed invade where you are going to be able to take away that buff, potentially split the map, or even maybe go back in and just 3-buff Snow. That is an option here, especially if your bot lane can shove this quick enough.
You just can't take the risk of contesting it, and it really puts Snow on almost a different planet. If you are tuning in just now and you're a Wichita Wolves fan, you're wondering who is this Snow guy? It's Method. He's changed his name, same player. We'll be referring to him as Snow from now on, and I'll be reminding you, but the Wichita Wolves have not changed their name.
Yep, and oh my goodness, here we go. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Their bot lane, they just shove in so hard. They're trading, and Grim and Benjito tried to push out, did not manage to do so. Took a whole bunch of poke, and right now Snow does get 3 buff. Will not be able to rotate downwards. Did not really get a leash either. So great start from Miyamo, and they're now going to have to look for a gank, but that's a little forced.
Got the vision on this. We expect they should know the Skarner's in the bot side, as PBN takes a big chunk in that mid lane, but Ivan and Cleve are both playing really safe bot side, and so Snow isn't going to get anything for his time, isn't going to be able to get himself back into the game. He's just got a Skarner who's set behind on that path to level 6 that he needs.
Yeah, and what could Snow do right there? There's really no other options. Your top side has already been cleared by Miyamo. You can't go into the enemy jungle, so you look for a gank. You don't find it, and you could kind of see too that PBN wasn't in a good position. So now he's just got to scuttle. That's it. And it's down to the lanes, I feel like, for Wichita Wolves to try and buy space for Snow so that the second round of jungle camp spawn here, Snow doesn't get bullied, doesn't get pushed away.
Trying to make some sort of gank happen in this mid lane. Ludo would be a difficult one. They've got Loosened on the roam as well. Stun isn't going to be enough, but he's so incredibly low that the flash is going to be forced out. Snow should be able to get away, and it should just be a net nothing here.
Ooh, but bot side though, they do have to be a little careful. Grim taking a lot of poke already. Oh!
Ooh, the interrupt on the dash there actually screws the bot lane, and Grim is going to take that last auto and go down for first blood as Ivan and Cleve, they outplay in this bot side. And honestly, Wichita Wolves, they mis-execute in a big way. It's cost them so much.
That's the price you pay when you give up the best bot lane combo to the side of the Red Hawks here. And I do want to point out too, once that flash is down, once your Justice Punch is down, Benjito and Grim just do not get to run away. That Glacial Augment means they can just hunt you down at will there. And they have to keep that in mind if they want to play aggressively like they were trying to when they got punished.
It's just inescapable, and this duo is expected to continue thriving right now. Snow is desperately going to try and address this. They've got to make this gank work. Cleve is going to get tagged by that stun. They should get 1 kill back here, and it's got to go to Grim. He's going to pick that one up well. Mabud in the top side is having a little bit of an issue himself, getting cleaned up by Meyamo. So the trade is by no means even, because you end up going 1-for-1 in a situation where you were already losing.
And normally it's 5 minutes here. If you do get the kill, you want to rotate for Dragon, potentially pick that up. But look at Snow's level. Level 3 right now to Miyamo's level 5. There's no safety for this Dragon here if you want to pick it up. If anybody pokes their head there, be it IBN, Pluto, or Miyamo showing up, you're in big trouble here. So you only get the kill. You don't get to really pick up anything off the back end of it. And topside, Lucent here continues to just get further and further ahead, and that's not what you want to see when you're the Silence. You're already going to have a rough lane. You need those items, and when you're set further and further behind, that laning just gets rough.
Hey, yeah, Mabud's been put in a no-win situation as well. There does end up going down, but fact is that we talked about how the lanes needed to buy space for the jungler, and he's just trying to create pressure. There's nothing to be had for Wichita Wolves, and this is the situation that they end up in, is with every lane just trying desperately to make something happen and not getting anything. Now they have no pressure on objectives as the Dragon has spawned. Should be Miami Redhawks all day. And this is what they needed to get going in the early game.
They dropped it themselves into this hole here. You've got passive lanes, and for Snow, I do want to point out as well that when we're talking about giving space here, it not only did it not happen, Miyamo actually took topside camps once again. So Snow was set even further behind. That's the second time they've lost some of the buffs on that top side. Thankfully, the Rit buff hadn't spawned yet, or else it'd be even worse here. And now Snow is going to be looking that top side. It should unlock the bottom. And I'm looking for Miyamo to come down here, get a gank off here in the bot side, which has already been so volatile, and then just rotate straight onto that drag.
Yeah, you get a gank, you get the drag, and it's the easiest thing you've ever wanted, and especially with the level 6, the additional lockdown provided by the Lillian makes this a no-brainer. It's all about the control of vision when setting up for these dives, though, as Ivan and Cleve, they are pushing in the wave, and it will be an option for the Miami University Redhawks should they choose to take it.
Yeah, actually, with the lane states as they are, because PBN only just got back to lane here, they could just look to sneak the dragon. Pluto doesn't have teleport though, so that would be a little risky, but so much vision. Miyamo's been down here for the last 30 seconds just trying to clear wards.
He gets it done, and now can turn onto that dragon since the dive is a little too little and the health bars are a little too high. Snow is having the opposite problem though. His health bar is a little too low. Trying to just clear red buff dings the level 5, but it's such a foregone conclusion with this Skarner, and now you're not going to have this big frontline take in Skarner. You're relying so much on Banjito, and Miami University Redhawks, they've shut Wichita Wolves out to the point where I don't think this team has any autonomy until at least the 25-minute mark.
Nope, because who's going to be engaging here? We mentioned the fact that Snow's really far down. That's another way to counter that Skarner, counter that Impale. If you're too squishy, you go in. They don't have to pay their taxes. They just take out the tax collector. For Grim and Benjito as well, your Galio is not very tanky. We already see a level lead in this bot lane here. Not to mention just the sheer amount of poke we keep seeing them put down. So then it comes to Mabud. Can Mabud be the one to get the engage? Potentially in a team fight, I think that there is a chance for them to do that, but in the 1v1 right now, you can see Mabud just being run down.
Yeah, he's got to use the Gnar ult for disengage of all things, and the Silas has been put in a really difficult position where once again, we see everything else on fire, and we look topside, we go, Mabud, please, save us from this hell, where Wichita Wolves have no autonomy, and he just can't do it. He can't do it without overextending into a Gnar, putting himself in a place of peril where he could be picked off, and then at that point, you don't have anything that you can say about the rest of the game. They've got to keep Mabud safe, and they've got to try and find some sort of condition wherein he can shine during the mid game.
And for the side of the Redhawks here, they've had themselves a very, very good early game, but they need to continue pushing that a little bit because Anivia does scale up very well into the mid game. Grim on this Jinx skills up amazingly well late, and it's not just about the skilling here. Grim has usually been that late game insurance for the side of Wichita Wolves if somebody else doesn't already step up and carry before that. So you don't want to give Grim that space to come back into the game after kind of bullying them out. And so far, besides the very rough early game, Grim has been able to farm up a storm. They are ahead or up in CS almost. Let's say that. I jinx it.
Yeah, you literally jinxed it. Although Banjito has shown up and will buy a little bit of space for Grim, actually almost takes out Ben, and that last rocket connects to seal the deal as Cleve now. A top against without a Senna is not exactly the most challenging of prospects, although to be taken down with the amount of farm he has will be a tall order. Ends up getting away. Omega Death Rocket doesn't quite secure him, but the tight fight in the bot side still favors Wichita Wolves. They walk away with a single pick and a kill on Grim.
Yeah, so sure, they don't have great engage, but they have epic disengage, and that's what we saw. Great punishing as well. That does mean that the bot side of the map is vastly, the landscape there will be changing quite a bit in terms of Cleve and IBM being able to put up pressure, but Snow is still behind, and now looking at the top side has to be careful. Miyamo's not that far away here.
I'm gonna try and keep from talking about Snow nearly as much. Although he insists on being relevant, I think we're gonna have to go with it. Miyamo, unfortunately, despite the flash, despite the smite, Snow is not going to be able to outdo him with the 2-level advantage, and this is what we really have to avoid. For me, it's not so much about what Snow has to do as what he has to not do, and that is a perfect example.
Yeah, and Snow engaged that. Snow went looking, like, Snow turned the corner, saw Miyamo, and was like, hey, I'm gonna flash forward to try and steal this. And while I appreciate the sentiment, the reality is that when you're 2 levels behind, when you're so many items behind as well, I mean, a 30-something CS is bad in lane, in the jungle, that's basically a death sentence. You, at that point, just turn away, walk away, and go, nope, I'm not having any of this unless somebody backs me up.
Yeah, unfortunately, isn't going to get the chance to contest the next objective either, as it's only 1 minute and 33 seconds away. That next dragon, the Wind Drake of all things, is actually going to be one of the ones that Wichita Wolves maybe will find it easier in their hearts to give up.
That's it. I don't think either of these teams really want to give anything up here. They want to take the Dragons with how passive or the lack of engage that we're seeing here from these teams. Getting those souls would definitely help them to find another avenue, another way to win this. The souls that we've seen so far, or the dragons, we've seen so far, Mountain and Cloud, do make the later dragons much spicier though, as both Infernal and Ocean souls are considered the strongest souls usually.
And this actually is the best case scenario for Wichita Wolves, because you're going to be giving up these early dragons. If you can give up the early ones and wait for the more impactful ones later, that's when an Evian Jinx really will start to shine. And it's almost this RNG lifeline that's been granted to them to keep them in this game where Miami University Redhawks have completely dictated the pace of the early game. At least it's not setting them up for a complete domination of the late game as well. PBN, having farmed up in that mid lane, is a perfect example of what we're looking for in the late game as he chunks out Pluto.
Problem is, that's a set that Pluto is on here. The just regeneration and sustain is more than sufficient to take that abuse, come back in later here. And I'm watching the mana bar for PBN because you have to burn mana to do that. Right now with that Lost Trapped in the tier, it does seem to be sufficient, but it's really a battle of health bar versus mana bar here.
We didn't talk about it too much, but it's worth noting that Rift Herald was dropped earlier, so it's not going to become free pressure around the Dragon. Instead, as we expect, Miami do show up first. They start up the Dragon, but interestingly enough, what none of us expected is a contest. Mayamo lands a two-man sleep, and that's instantly going to start the fight off well. Grim is on the flank. It's not where we thought he would be. But going into front line is Galley, just whipped out by Pluto. On the side, though, Mabud with a big Gnar ult starts this off well for Grim, who just needs to land these few autos. But Ivan is able to disengage with the Curse of Blast Miss. Banjito desperately commits forward, does end up finding a pick. The rest of them should be able to get out just fine. Lucent, one last rocket would do it under the tower. Grim ends up picking up his second, has overextended into Pluto though, and is gonna get blown up quicker than you can say. Hey, Snow getting chased down as well. This is a big overextension from Wichita. They just found the picks and they threw it all away.
Huge miscommunication there. You could see that PBN, Vegito, they were already out. Why would you keep dumping in? Oh no.
Pluto's still going for it. Benjito's so ridiculously low, and PBN is going to get pulled in, going to get chased down, and even that flash is not going to save him at this point. The bleeding out continues for Wichita Wolves, and it rockets Miami ahead.
Wichita Wolves' chance to get back into the game. They give up the Dragon for the kills, and like you kind of mentioned, yeah, it's worth it. If you walk away with those, what was that, 2 kills that they got in the beginning of that, the issue is the over chase. You don't have to do that. You could have just gone to the turret, taken that instead, and now instead you fed a whole bunch over to Miyamo, to a little less scary, but still, you know, you just don't want to be giving that gold up, and it's going to make your next Dragon harder. In 5 minutes here, what should have been a closer fight is going to be that much more difficult.
Yeah, this was arguably a bigger misstep to me right here than watching Snow flash and smite for the Rift Herald, just because of how much it cost Grim as well. Grim is the win condition unequivocally right now for Wichita Wolves, and he's been set behind by the death. You need this Jinx to be untouched and be able to scale up. It's just not what happened, and right now, you're right, I am looking at those next couple of decks and going, maybe we're going to have to see Wichita Wolves give up even more than we thought. In the bot lane, though, they're not giving up too much, as Grim certainly will go toe-to-toe with Ivan. We've seen it before.
Offside.
That trade of Gnar ults is hilarious on screen, but Lucent is overextended ever so slightly, going to be locked up by Snow and Mabud and taken down.
I mean, it's hilarious to watch, but it's also really bad for Lucent here in a way, because Lucent has to watch the rage bar. Mabud does not. Mabud just needs to hijack, and then you get to use it whenever you want to there. That top gank, I do want to point out, was immaculately played in terms of timing. They waited till Lucent was running out of time, and then Snow comes in. Impale didn't even have to be used to pick that up. So that is still available if Snow can find somewhere else to use that.
He's got Flash and Impale. I want to see a visit to the bot side. I'll be honest with you, RMC. I think you should throw all your eggs in this basket. Mabud may not have teleport. BBN might not have teleport, but neither does anyone for the Miami University Redhawks, and you've still got to invest in the Jinx. There's so much that she's got to do in this later stage of the game that Anivia, you can kind of leave alone. The same isn't true for the AD carry.
And the price of trying to go down there is that you're going to lose Herald. Right now, you can see Snow on lock with these objectives. Was there on spawn? No, wasn't. Snow does have Turbo Chem Tank though, so you... Oh, please.
Oh my god, he's not actually spotted on vision, but ends up backing off there. The call from Wichita Wolves is to disengage, and I understand it. It seems like a really scary position, but me as a big ape brain, I just go for it.
I don't really understand why that happened. You knew where Miyamo was because Herald just went down. The announcement's there. You know they're not available. So if Pluto comes, no big deal. You impale and you just drop the hero's entrance. That should have been a guaranteed kill. Now, they didn't do that. They gave up top lane pretty much to Lucent because Miyamo rotated there from Herald. And Herald still in Miyamo's back pocket. Mid lane, bot lane, both options for Herald, and they can just take all your other turrets.
Yeah, it's a full... essentially kills worth of gold, a little bit more even for Lucent as they take the first tower of the game. And now Mabud, you can see it right there, is trying to freeze to fix some of the previous mistakes and try and make up that gap between him and Lucent. But it's going to be a really, really tall order as Miami get unlocked onto the map here. Miyamo is able to freely drop that second Rift Herald into the mid lane, and 2 Rift Heralds is going to be surely enough to spell the death of a tower. Second one will fall, granting Miami control of the jungle in its entirety.
Ocean Soldier, you see the teams are setting up. Snow might be caught out here.
Yeah, Bud teleported down, has the Gnar, but Snow is pretty separated. But Bud going over the wall though, finds a lot of space in the choke, gets a double stun down, and Grim from the backline is able to freely DPS. With Miyamo going golden, there's a little bit more time bump, but Vangito committing forward is actually really big, doesn't have the taunt to slow everybody up, and Pluto is going to pick up the kill, crucially now, with no frontline. Wichita will have to be on the retreat, but Prim doesn't want to get served to today, keeps throwing out the autos, and is going to keep his team in the fight for now.
Oh, and it's not over yet. They're still waiting here for this dragon. Mabud is basing with no teleport, means that Mabud has to walk back, and the teams are engaged in this face-off here where Miyamo can just keep throwing out these throws. He keep looking for the poke.
Just going for it, and there's a teleport into the back line as well, which means everybody's got to back away. PBN's been kind of screwed here, I'll be honest, as that last auto will take him down into the egg form. Grim's got to make the most of this time, but doesn't have the mana to keep throwing at the rockets. Gets stunned into the wall by the flash Gnar, and does manage to escape. Just barely gets tagged, though, with the Comet, and will go down. You lose another big member. You lose another big team fight. Miami University, they're running away with this.
I don't see how Wichita Wolves expect to come back when they are performing like this here. Snow just needed to run at that point. When you're that low, Mabud base, you aren't getting this, and they just keep giving over more kills after they lose the objectives. Quick soul check right now. Senna is on 78 stacks right now. That is 675 range. I do believe at this point that is more than the Jinx rocket range, or pretty much at Jinx rocket range. So IBN is very, very safe in these fights.
And the difference has to be that front line. We saw it fall apart for Wichita Wolves, and with every time your front line falls apart, with every time that you lose a team fight, you set back your game impact. And the impact of what you're doing with that is so large, as we're getting an Ocean Soul this game. We didn't address it before, but we're going to address it like heck now. And Wichita Wolves, they likely aren't going to be able to contest for it again.
Healing cut on the side of Wichita Wolves at all. And even if we ignore the fact that Ocean Soul almost demands healing cut here, IBN demands healing cut with this setup. You are putting out the heals, and that's really what made a huge difference in that last fight. Initially, when it looked pretty good, when they managed to sort of re-engage and Pluto got kind of low there, it was the healing from IBN that kept them in the game and allowed them to continue that fight. The sustain right now is massive, and there isn't anybody on the side of Wichita Wolves who can match in terms of extended fights. Grim has the Kraken Slayer, yes, but is struggling to step in range without being kind of pushed out, and it doesn't have any healing, so that doesn't quite match the Senna.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I want to notice that there are 2 timers that are synced off that last fight as well. Lucent's and Grim's. when those two are up at the same time, it's actually a really sad story for Wichita Wolves, where Grim has to constantly play with the respect of a Flash Gnar. And it's not just that, that's even the singular threat, but it's such a big one that you now are going to have to face up the next time Grim feels enabled. He's still going to have to save it for Lucent.
Flashes might be Sanctia, but Lucent has the Stride Breaker. Grim went with Kraken Slayer, not Galeforce. So right now, it's actually a small window for the side of the Red Hawks to punish Grim's lack of a flash here. You can go and use that Stride Breaker to engage to get on top of that Jinx, and Jinx right now cannot run. We've not really seen the side of Wichita Wolves able to protect Grim terribly well in these fights. When they finally do reach the back line, it doesn't work. You've got zone control, but you don't have proper hard peel, hard CC to protect that thing.
And right now, I find myself wondering, RMC, what is it that Wichita Wolves can do at this point in the game? Because everything else, up until now, they've ignored. It feels kind of like global warming, where you go, build solar panels, and then they don't build solar panels, and now you find yourself with increased global warming. You have to do even more. Same thing has happened with Wichita Wolves, who go, don't contest dragons. They contest dragons, and now it's even worse. Is there even a solution at this point, or is it too far gone?
If it's global warming, I think my bud bought a Neverfrost if that helps. But looking at in terms of trying to get back into the game, I don't think the dragon contests were the problem. I think it was how they ended up contesting it. Like, contesting it was right. When you start losing, you needed to leave. Now it's Baron, because you don't win in the lanes and the siege will wear you down. So right now you set up vision and you try and catch the Red Hawks near the Baron, either with a numbers advantage, or you let them start Baron and then you look to force them into a decision. Do they go for Baron? Do they go for you? And they take Baron damage the entire time. The thing they need to watch though is Lucent's rage bar. If it's down, they fight at Baron. If it's up, then you poke and you pray that you can stall them long enough for it to go back down.
Yeah, you just gotta wait for that to expire. It's such a big thing that Miami University can fight around. I love the focus on the Baron as well, is because it's the last nail in the coffin for Wichita Wolves. Miami University have countered what they need to do in every step of this game so far, but the one thing remaining here is the stall that PBN and Grim can provide. If Baron goes down, it's simply not true anymore, and that's the objective that, even if we're not looking at it right now on our screens, my eyes are on.
The other objective I'm watching is that 25-second timer on this dragon that is coming up. That is Ocean Soul. It has been that long. We've had 5 minutes of peace here where the teams haven't really been fighting. And this is the one dragon where I feel like Wichita Wolves shouldn't fight it because they're guaranteed to lose, but at the same time have to fight because it is the Ocean Soul. So I would like to see Wichita Wolves try and get there and just kind of poke down a little bit, see if there's an opportunity to find some kills, and if not, then just back out. But they've just completely opted to ignore it, and if you're going to do that and sit, then go Baron.
Yeah, and right now you can see them trying to secure at least some vision, but not even able to start it. And with the Miami University Redhawks roaming over, the chances of that Baron going down are null. You're relying now purely on Snow's Thornmail to keep you in a fight, and it's not a gamble that I would take today, as Miami University Redhawks, even without the Baron, are just going to straight up push down the lane.
Even a Thornmail yet, it's literally just the Bramble Vest. Oh, that's one flash down, and Lucent didn't have to burn his.
Yeah, Grim now with a lot less safety, and like you say, Lucent's still very, very, very healthy and autonomous, as Gnar does expire, and we'll have to wait until later to try for that one again. Cooldown's up very quickly, though, and Miami University aren't going anywhere, certainly not anywhere far away from this mid lane.
Yep. Right now, I think you can just use that split push pressure that we see so often with the Baron. Lucent still roughly maybe about 20 seconds still on that, or well, probably 15 seconds on that Mega Gnar here. So go down bot side, split push on that. Send Pluto to the other lanes, and you guys can do a 1-3-1. And for Wichita Wolves, if they do try and contest, I don't think they have enough damage to blow you up before your side lanes collapse.
I'm really, like, I don't even know if you can contest your jungle right now. We can already see that Wichita Wolves get forced out of trying to contest a Krug at this point, and the gold lead is just going to keep expanding. We've passed that 5,000 mark a few minutes ago, and now we're sitting at 6, and very likely that's going to continue to expand even further as Miami University can continue to push for these leads, continue to take objectives, and continue to take jungle camps and starve gold away from Wichita.
They kind of, like, they kind of want to push out the lane so that you can go for the Baron here, right? Like, it's not so much just about stalling for the sake of stalling. It's about trying to set up your wave states. And right now, I think it's actually in a pretty good position. Lucent has pushed up that bot side right now. Your top side should be pushing for you. You can see that Mabud, I think, is a little bit scared right now because they don't have vision. And your mid lane was just shoved out. So by all means, go towards that Baron, clear out the vision, and that's going to force Wichita Wolves to either come at you or watch as the minions sort of push in the side waves here. I do also want to do a quick check on the souls for IBN because I think, yep, we've hit triple digits. 100 souls and 725 its auto attack range. Who on earth can reach IBN now?
When I used to play Senna religiously, I would hit 100 souls and I would go, all right, the game is now over. I get to solo carry the game. It's not just IBN having solo carry though. He can solo throw if he does want to. Almost gets first down, but a good swallow from Sleep is going to mean a 5-man Sleep gets followed up with by Miyamo. And Grim is going to go down quite easily. The cleanup crew is abounding as Ivan gets to flash away from the one remaining bastion of hope on the side of Wichita. Mabud ends up falling. Banshito, the last one left alive, and Wichita Wolves are cleaned not only off the rip, but off this game. The ace comes in, and the game is soon to follow, as all of Miami University, they file in.
Yeah, it's not Baron. I guess they didn't need it at the end of the day. The Red Hawks managed to force their way in here, and via 16 and 6 in a 30-minute game. I feel like on one hand, that's pretty high kills considering how these compositions wanted to play the game. But on the other hand, I also kind of feel like I want to see more engaged being drafted in the next game.
Yeah, we talked about this and we saw it in the last team fight there. There were so many other problems, but that was one that came to mind, that if we see Wichita Wolves engaging into that composition from Miami University Redhawks, you're just losing. You're losing every day of the week, and especially when you're doing it at gold disadvantage, that certainly isn't going to change. Not able to play the early game the way that they wanted, we saw Wichita Wolves just fall apart.
Wichita Wolves, when you're playing up against Red Hawks here, you do have to be very, very almost hyper conscious of Miyamo in the early game, because Miyamo is a very cerebral jungler, and you can already tell right off the bat the fact that you could late invade 3 buff Snow to start and the continued punish the second round of camps as well, the way Miyamo invaded on that. That is something that you can't fix in draft. It doesn't matter what champion you give Miyamo, whether I feel like even if you give him Karthus, he'll find a way to punish you in the early game. So Wichita need to shore up that early game and need to figure out where their strong sides are, where their weak sides are, and play around that.
And for God's sake, like, keep Snow in your mind, because during the draft, we can't see just another jungler that can't contest Miyamo, and certainly not lanes that can't do it either, because you're going to need support from somewhere when Miyamo does start to invade. It was a scary, scary thing to see the Lilia triple buff Askarner early on, set him so far behind, and it only continued with more plays across the map. I think that Miami University played this wonderfully, and I wonder if they can do it again now that Wichita are going to try to adapt.
I hope that Miami continues to perform at that level, but I hope that Wichita does adapt. So I always like to see full 3-game series if it is a best of 3 here. So I'm kind of rooting a little bit for Wichita Wolves here as the underdog going into game 2.
All right, well, let's find out if they can adapt or if Miami University Redhawks just come in with too much of a game plan. We'll find out once we get back from a very short break here at Risen Esports in the second round of the playoffs.
Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear. Like an outlaw on the run, dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Risen Divine League's playoffs round 2. We're here in the winner's bracket, where Wichita Wolves Black are going up against the Miami University Redhawks for the second time tonight. And the first time, I mean, I don't want to see repeated. That was terrifying. Miami University Redhawks looked like they were playing in another league, especially when it came to the jungle.
Yeah, it was such a clean game coming through from them right off the bat, right from that delayed invade at level 1. Redhawks really felt like they had full control of the game. And now going into game 2 here, I respect the center ban. I very much was demanding that, and I'm glad they delivered.
Yeah, I talked to you a little bit in between the games about how we wanted to see them adapt, and it seems like they're adapting all the way as Wichita Wolves take away not one, but 2 linchpins of the composition last time and are going to force Miami University Redhawks to play the game a different way.
Does leave open that heck room. I barely got that in before.
Instant.
Yeah, because you have the Lilia ban, right? You've got the Udyr ban. That leaves Hecarim at the top of the table, and it's not like there was a Tristana to bait you. So I love the fact that that has come through, but it does now leave the Jinx open for the Redhawks, and generally that is what they've been doing, is if Senna's open, they take it for IBN. If not, the second pick there is going to be that Jinx for them.
This is a Volibear here. I've actually seen this before. This is something that got picked up in, I think it was the second game in their first series of the quarterfinals. I'm going to go back and find it right now because Miami University Redhawks, they might be pulling out an ancient strat.
Oh, what? Sorry?
I said an ancient strat, one that they've used before.
Sorry, I thought it was like a particular strategy they had run, and I was like, what is this new cheat? Or this old cheat in this case? I would like to know.
Okay.
As well, that could be top or support. Neither. Actually, Lucent doesn't really play the Karma, so I'd be very surprised if they did opt to take it top. And I'm thinking now maybe it might be for Pluto actually in the mid lane.
It genuinely might. I'd actually really like to see that sort of comp, especially when we consider last time that the Miami University Redhawks played Volibear. They ended up picking a Kled for Lucent, who we did bring up as a big carry in game 1, but didn't really get to see shine because Mayama was gapping everybody everywhere. This time, on a Volibear, we expect we might end up seeing a little bit of a different look. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping for that Kled, but it seems like Wichita Wolves are crossing their fingers and running blindly into the night as they run back almost exactly the same draft.
Fair to Grim and Vegito here, the Jinx Galio really wasn't the problem in their first game. In fact, if anything, I think Benjito did a great job with the Galio. The heroic entrance, or the hero's entrance, did turn a couple of big fights, or at least delay the inevitable result of those fights here. Oh, I'm so happy, Dia.
I've never heard you react that way to a pick.
Oh, you know, I've been sort of on the Caitlyn train the last little while here. I've been, you know, Jinx, pardon me, Tristana, Jinx, Xayah, Kai'Sa, all of them I feel like do so rough into Caitlyn that I'm surprised teams haven't been picking up the Caitlyn. You pair that with the Karma here in the bot lane, and I don't think Benjito and Grim get to play the game.
No, it's certainly not. The Karma now doesn't need to be put in that mid lane, although I want to say that she still can, and you can still pick up a Morgana here. I want to see Wichita Wolves respect that because of the fact that Pluto has played support before, and playing this sort of Ivan-centric composition would be a big insult and a big shutdown to Grim.
I mean, it feels almost overkill, and you're putting a lot of eggs into that IBN basket here. But after, I guess, that Senna performance, maybe it is somewhat warranted, especially if you can path around early and get that solid lead and nobody can really get on top of the Caitlyn. The Yumi ban coming out against Benjito here. I mean, Benjito, okay, so we should acknowledge the fact that Benjito is not the regular support for the Wolves here. It's usually Perseus or Superstar. So I love the fact that they felt they had to ban the Yumi.
Just went for it 100%. And you know what? I like it. I like that you're at least target banning a little bit here. It is going to put Benjito, I expect, still on the Galio. I don't really think this is going anywhere, but now we're gonna see. Somebody pay me more. Somebody pay me more.
Yeah, so now you could technically go Morg mid as well. That is an option. And the reason why I'm raising it, and I don't want to close it off just yet, it depends on what Wichita Wolves picks here, whether you want to send that Karma or that Morgana into the mid lane. Because honestly, both of them pair so well with that Caitlyn. There is that binding into Cupcake, into basically a death bot lane that we often see with Morgana Caitlyn, or the poke lane, which we alluded to with the Karma Caitlyn here. Lulu being picked up. So that might actually be a Galio mid potentially for PBN here.
Yeah, this is something that we're honestly not going to know until we get into the game because these two can be flexed back and forth, and we've already seen Banjito play the Galio. I am gonna hold off on any judgment here, at least until we see the next couple lock-ins. But the Wolves wisely, even after they pick Lulu, will end up taking away the Gnar that they saw last game and leave Red Hawks with a hole in that top lane. Do you think this is a Kled? Do you think so?
It actually does pretty well into the Gnar here. If you land a bear trap, that does get pretty tough, but it's a bit dangerous in the lane. It would do great for the composition though, in terms of getting the engage. The Irelia pickup actually, I like
Really, it's really good.
here because not only do you have the winning matchup against Gnar, I personally feel like Irelia punishes Gnar even more than the Jace, which I think is the current sort of pro meta. Is you pick Jace into Gnar. I think Irelia does the same things except harder and scales better. And more importantly, now in the team fights, Lulu can wild growth one target. If you're using it onto Jinx, then Lulu herself is exposed. You wait out the Mega Gnar, and then you turn around and kill the Mini Gnar. Or if Lulu's trying to save themselves, then Jinx is going to be vulnerable and exposed to that Irelia. So having that to pair with the Volibear, I feel it's such a strong threat that nobody's really going to be able to safely go for your Caitlyn.
Really, really terrifying composition from Red Hawks, and I like that you bring that up. It's this sort of peel via aggression, where surely the Wolves can't contest our AD carry because we'll be too busy murdering theirs. And even if you do end up losing your Caitlyn, like you mentioned, you still have that Aurelia that's being buffed up by things like Morgana and like Karma. It's a very, very scary proposition. And as much as Miami University Red Hawks are lacking AP, I don't think that they want to take this game late enough that it'll even matter.
I don't even think the Red Hawks are actually lacking that much in AP here. You've got Karma Morgana. Both of them do a lot of damage. And for Miyamo on the Volibear, Volibear's damage profile is actually pretty mixed between physical and magic here. So his abilities do a lot of magic damage. I think they actually do have enough. And it just comes down to, can you kill that Jinx? And with this particular setup, I think you can. The backline's very safe as well. It is defense via aggression, but it is also a lot of just straight defense. A lot of range here. Morgana's got huge range. Karma's got huge range,
Mhm.
and then definitely huge range. It's not quite Senna. It's not quite that. What was it? 725 range, I believe, was what IBN
Oh
actually got.
Jesus! Oh Jesus!
So I think it's 650 on Caitlyn. That is still very, or is it 650 on Caitlyn? Or yes, 650, I think is her range. It's still one of the longest base ranges in the game. So definitely very difficult for the Wolves to actually engage onto and punish, even though the front line won't be there to peel.
And now it's time to start asking ourselves. We've talked so much about the Miami University Redhawks. What is it that Wolves do especially well? Because to me, this looks like a team fight comp.
Is I mean, in most situations, that's a very solid team fight composition, right? You've got the Hecarim to engage. We've already seen the follow up from the Galio here, which will be on PBN this time. So we've seen Benjito get some great heroes entrances. I'm sure PBN can do the same. So that's normally how you'd want to sort of initiate the fight. You've got the Jinx, the hyper carry in the backline with the Lulu to buffer and to protect her. Normally, if there's only one threat, you polymorph that threat, and then your Jinx is nice and safe. But this time, with both Miyamo on the Volibear and Lucent on the Irelia, you've got to pick your battles here. And it's going to be very difficult to protect that Jinx. Mabud can go either aggressive, engage, or defend. Last game, we saw Lucent playing very aggressively with the Gnar, but this time, I think with the Hecarim Galio combo, Mabud is going to be either secondary engage or more peel for the team.
Yeah, you really do want to be using a lot of the counter engaged tools that Wichita Wolves have here because of the amount that I think we're gonna see Miami University just throwing themselves bodily at Grim to shut him down. Because once you shut down Grim, the damage is really, really lacking, and it's become another game focused very much around the Jinx. But for the Miami University Redhawks, they have more than just that bot lane to offer. Top lane is a win condition as well, and it leaves the world open for Miyamo to once again exploit that early game and maybe not just get himself ahead, but start to translate some of that into the lanes.
And not well. I'm looking more at the side lanes. I feel like for Red Hawks because you've got
Mhm.
Karma in that mid lane. That is not necessarily a lane that you're gonna look to dominate, especially against the Galio here. So we talked a bit about last game the fact that Miyamo took advantage of the strong side of the map, played to it, and Wolves got 3 buffed by that. Here in this game, I don't expect to see them, or they shouldn't. For the Red Hawks, they definitely should not be able to 3 buff you again quite the same way here. The Wolves do have that now on the top side here, that range damage. Sure, it's not quite as strong into the Irelia as it was into the Silas level 1, but you can definitely go reinforce. Same thing with your bot lane. I expect to see that if you get invaded, you have priority coming from your mid lane for sure, and your side lane should be able to respond that little bit faster.
Yeah, this is going to be a game that, once again, very early on is going to revolve very heavily around the jungle. So watch Mayama, watch how Snow recovers in this game. And it's going to be something that we're continuously touching on as these two roam around the map and try and create advantages, try to nullify each other in the side lanes. It's an all-out war as we get into game 2 here in the second round of the playoffs. So early on, we're already getting a game with very, very high stakes for both these teams. Let's send this over to a quick break before we get into game 2 of Miami University Redhawks versus the Wichita Wolves. Combined Leagues winners bracket of the playoffs in round 2 here. I know it's a mouthful, but we've got a lot to cover, RMC, so let's not waste too much time with it here. Wichita Wolves are getting into their second game of the series after being handed the first one by a crazy, crazy gap in the jungle. Mayamo once again makes his return, but Snow and Grim have both adapted in big ways to their problems last game.
Sure, the ignite onto Snow here. That really tells me that this Hecarim wants to go aggressive, wants to find kills, and more importantly, I think, wants to be able to actually fight off Miyamo should they get invaded here, as we are seeing happen right now.
Yet another invasion, another game, another buff contested, although this time with some counter vision from the Wichita Wolves. It should be Miami University retreating back to their own jungle, and you see the resets come out there, not wanting to disrespect a Wichita Wolves that very clearly wants to fight.
Go in, get the vision, and it's now going to be able to track the Hecarim there. That's going to be huge in terms of where you want to look to gank, because for Red Hawks, I do feel like they have winning lanes pretty much in all their lanes. Maybe mid isn't exactly a winning lane, but it certainly is a lane that can support Miyamo. You pick a Karma, you get the poke down, and it's still a support champion who can back your lanes up. So I think what we're likely to see here is both junglers starting bot side, and then maybe they meet up top, and Miyamo's looking to potentially get the counter gank here with the help of Lucent, who should be ahead early on.
Yeah, and a lot of this game is going to be about that gank, counter gank, gank, counter gank style, because both of these junglers can do it so quickly and do have very quick response time as junglers with movement speed buffs inherent in their kit. You say that, you think Hecarim, but Volibear can get surprisingly fast.
And especially earlier on, right? This is not Hecarim with Ghost, and you don't quite have that Turbo Chem tank just yet either. So when that's the case here, that Volibear definitely can look to match the Hecarim. Yeah, the other thing you mentioned there was Grim Summoner spell choice, the cleanse. And I think we need to address it first before they need to burn it, because it's the Morgana Caitlyn bot lane here. If you get hit by one CC, you might just die straight up. So I think that cleanse, very wise choice. It'll probably save you way more hassle than a heal, pardon me, would have been able to do.
Yeah, it's much less, I want to say, of an adaptation and more of a requirement to play the game in this lane. And right now, Grim will have preserved it thus far, but once we see Cleave trying to play aggressively throughout those bindings, then maybe Mayamo paying a visit to that bot side, it's going to be gone faster than you can say cleanse.
Before we look at the bot side here, looking at how aggressively they're warding, Lucent walked all the way down to get a ward onto the blue buff. I think they're just going to try and cheese Snow right here. Well, Snow is pulling both these buffs here. The collapse should be coming in right now.
Yeah, after almost a full clear, Mayamo pairs up with Lucent for the invade. They should find Snow very shortly. Already doing his buff. Double flash over is going to give you no opportunity to respond. First blood goes to Lucent, and a decisive play from Miami University Redhawks starts them off on a right foot.
Mark pings go down to the top lane. But Bud, why did you not warn me, buddy? Where was your laner there? The fact that Lucent managed to sneak out not once, but twice there. The first time to get vision, the second time to punish. That ignite is not going to help Snow when you're at a numbers disadvantage.
Not at all. The health bars are barely even touched. If we look at Lucent and Mayamo, they're walking around with full HP, just taking double scuttles, taking lives. The duo is unstoppable, and it's very, very scary for somebody like Snow who wanted to be able to fight his way into the mid game.
Already seeing a level discrepancy once again, and getting double scuttled right now. Miyamo claiming both of that. That's not just big for the jungles, it's going to be big in terms of vision as well, because now Snow has to be careful when pathing. Will have to take longer routes potentially to transition between lanes if that's where he's looking for ganks.
Yeah, both junglers have returned to their respective jungles, though. Snow obviously getting some items in there as he was forced to back early on, but Mayamo, not having taken the reset now, will do so with 30 seconds left on the Dragon, and I wonder if we see a little bit more priority on that than we did in the first game, where it took a little while for Miami to feel comfortable taking it.
Big India, so we actually might just get a full repeat of everything we saw in game one there early. I think for Miyamo right now, it's less about the dragon and more about just trying to punish and bully Snow, because that's what worked in game one. And so far, what we've seen suggests that that's what they're going to go for once again. It worked game one, and if they're able to get it off here in game two once again, there's no reason for them to change that strategy.
Seems like that's the plan, although Snow has some plans of his own heading up to that top side. Does get spotted on a ward. Mabud trying to call back in that top lane, pulls our attention to bot lane instead as Snow and Mayamo now on the top side. We keep switching back and forth, are fighting each other. Mayamo though, with that additional extra stats, not only given to him by the levels, but by the items, is going to be able to fight him off. And Mabud gets chunked out to below 50% HP.
Exactly a 2v2. It was more two 1v1s happening, but either way, it's Red Hawks winning both the 1v1s, and they kept dragging us bot side because Grim got poked out of lane, was forced to back, and it's not exactly a cheater recall here as the entire wave is crashing in. Vegito will be there to soak up the experience, but this should give Red Hawks a bit of lane pressure.
This is dangerous. This is dangerous, though, and Iben and Cleve make the right call pulling away as PBN was moving down bot lane, trying to find some sort of answer. But once again, Miami University Red Hawks, they are playing the pressure game, and they're playing it very, very well.
Oh dear. With this back, we should be seeing Dragon potentially come in here because IBN will be able to buy items to match Cleve as well. They should be ahead a little bit, and Benjito not quite able to match. In fact, Grim and Benjito are actually going to base right now, spend that little bit more to get ready for said Dragon fight.
Yeah, but even so, it's going to be so difficult because you've already invested in the Berserkers, Graves is Grim. Maybe not expecting this back timing, wanting Iben to push a little bit more, get greedy, stay in lane, but that's not something that Miami have done all series. It has been Wichita Wolves making these mistakes for greed in the mid game, but it's just not going to happen. It's kind of a pipe dream, and it doesn't work out for Wichita Wolves. It's not going to translate into a Dragon on the other side of this. Miami University, they're going to get the chance to get a little tankier.
This Dragon right now not being contested whatsoever, I think is coming off the back of lack of vision for Wichita Wolves here. They saw that IBN was back in lane and they kind of just went, okay, the ADC's there, they're probably not doing it. They didn't walk to check it at all. And yeah, they just give up a free Dragon right now. Red Hawk's gonna be happy for that one. And right back to the jungle, Miyamo back to farming, back to ganking. Watch out top and mid.
Yeah, top and mid have been surprisingly low action after that. I'm going to call it a 2v2 in the top side that we didn't see quite work out. And it's translated into just full autonomy for the summoners. I feel like we're waiting around this bot lane or objective fight to really burn both of these teleports, but none of the globals have actually been forced to be used, even in the lanes that we expect to be the highest action. With Snow showing up here, that could change. Lucent doesn't land that stun, and it's Aurelia left all on her own with a Gnar that's about to go mega as well. But Bud is going to be able to lay down the CC. Snow throws down the Ignite, and they are going to take this kill. The question now is just who gets this.
Lucent's buying time though, and not quite enough, unfortunately. Miyamo, for the first time this series, I think, caught a little bit behind in terms of tempo, and I think that's just great play from Snow to recognize that, to go up there, and because of all the vision, all the attention down in the bot side, Lucent did not see that coming.
A little bit aggressive here. Looks a little cheeky, although it costs them big, and they'll think about doing that one again. Lucent teleports up to that top side, burns the global that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and is going to force him a Bud back. But I think that what you said before is exactly what I thought when I saw that gank, and that was good job on Snow. He's actually gotten himself ahead, or at least back into the game.
Ish, in terms of the tempo, definitely back. Still down a couple of levels. It has to be careful here.
Well, I mean, he knows that Mayamo is here, so he'd actually have to burn quite a bit more, but he doesn't have the ultimate. Instead, it's just going to go down, giving that advantage over again as PBN shows up a little bit late, burning a teleport of his own. That is really bad for Wichita Wolves.
Oh, dunk champions, yeah. I don't usually think of Volibear, but Miyamo is so far ahead right now that when that Stormbringer went down, they just absolutely crushed Snow. By the time PBN TP finished channel, it was already too late. And for their pains in the mid lane, they get another prize, the Herald here.
Yeah, that Herald priority gonna translate once again, although this time Snow with no flash and no life isn't gonna be able to contest it like he did previously. PBN instead is poking his head in, hoping for some sort of God-given last hit. Isn't gonna find it, instead retreats back to that mid lane, giving over even more of an advantage to Miami University as they have the tempo now with the Rift Herald to crack whatever lane they want.
for Miami, for the Red Hawks right now. I'm pretty confident in saying that they're probably going to play this smart, and so I'm going to hazard a guess that they're going topside right now with Lucent and Mabud. Crack that topside turret because that's been where they've spent the bulk of their attention. IBN and Cleve are fine. Pluto is not going to necessarily win, so if you get a kill here.
Yeah, you've got Mayamo in your pocket, so Lucent should be able to get this kill. It's going to be another game of who gets it, who just gets the kill participation. Lucent ends up, of course, picking up the actual last hit, and it's exactly what you want from this Aurelia, but Mayamo gets involved as well, giving him a little bit of gold, and it's just a big win across the top side. It's something that we expected from the draft. Miami University, these side lanes are where they're strong, and they're only going to get stronger.
Looking at this top side is you want to unlock Lucent, because this is that sort of huge carry for your team that you want to rotate out to the other lanes, get the kill pressure going everywhere here, whereas your other lanes, they're fine where they are here. So now first turret going down, and I do believe they gave solo gold as well to Lucent. Expect to see Lucent start roaming around, and PBN had better start watching out. Same with Grim and Benjito here.
It's so weird to say that the Galio has to watch out for Gangstu because he's so ridiculously tanky. At least that's how it feels when you play the mid lane. But against Lucent, with the completed Blade of the Ruined King, I'm going to toggle the gold right now just on my own with a 2,000 gold lead over his laner. It is not going to be any form of tank given by Snow, by PBM. The front line just doesn't exist to this Aurelia.
Like kind of what they're doing here. Gank bot with the jungler. Send your roaming top laner mid here. It feels like two lanes.
Mayamo can shut down a turret, so you've got to pull Snow down here right now in order to defend from this dive, and even walking in for the invade. This extra setup from Miami University is keeping them from overextending into Wichita Wolves' response.
Hawks do have to be a little bit careful though. Miyamo and
Lucent
are really far out.
Lucent is here as well. If you stick around, you just die. And Mayamo wants to make that certain as he aggresses onto Grim. Still has the ultimate here. Onslaught and Shadows get channeled, and Cleve flashes away, leaving Lucent all on his own. Cat out 1v5 at this point in the game, but Ivan found an ace in the hole through the midst of all of it. Mayamo gonna go down to the small overextension there. Wichita Wolves seem like they're picking it back up. Grim on the flank, he's overstepped in a big way. Has to burn that cleanse to stay alive. Now, everybody on Miami just get to retreat for free.
Lens, I mean, they are getting harassed now the entire way, so despite coming up ahead in terms of kills, they will have to back off, and their turret is kind of in peril here. Even if they defend the turret, they'll have to give up the dragon. So it feels like layers upon layers right now, and Wichita Wolves, there's just too many layers. You can save some, but you can't save all of them.
They're like an onion of League of Legends, and Mabud is going to have to stay down here and get some stinky breath because he's got to try and defend this turret, and he's the only one that can theoretically stay, allowing them to contest Drake with the Mega Gnar bar that he's building up, but even he can't take on the Herculean task of contesting a Caitlyn Morgana push.
Look at the range. IBN's basically free firing. It's as if Mabud isn't even there, and because they're putting down this pressure, I was saying that it's layers. You pick your poison, they get to take it all here as Miyamo solos the dragon. They're pressuring the bot lane, and they could just potentially set up for a repeat gank.
Yeah, Miyamo's just straight up pulling it. They see that they have the control ward, and Mabud is going to be forced to stay around as his wave gets farmed top lane. So even that small bit of aggression buys them even more time to get Lucent further ahead, and even off the back of a play that didn't really work out for them, Miami University, they still win.
Wichita Wolves here, they're not out of it by any means. The gold depth is looking pretty rough, shall we say. 3k gold difference here, but if we recall back to game one, they were kind of in this similar situation at this point too, and they managed to come back. Their Jinx Grim did do a lot of damage as well in game one, so the issue here was that they started seeding up kills after major objectives here. So dragon coming up in 5 minutes, it will be the third dragon. That's where things start to go really bad for the side of Wichita Wolves. What I do want to see is for them to contest. I think that's fine, but just make sure that if you lose it, you don't lose too much after that.
Snow's going into this top lane though, trying to delay Luce a little bit more, and is going to be able to do it with the help of Mabud. Another kill's going to go down. Ignite's ticking, but Mabud gets the last hit, takes Lucent down a chunk, and it's going to enable this Gnar in that team fight around this objective.
the decision right now by the side of the Wolves or by Snow to sack your bot side for your top side. Turret goes down in the bot lane right now, and it looks like they're looking at Mabud to be the one to try and get them back into the game. They're trusting that Grim can just try and CS, but this game, Grim is not having a CS lead despite being down, is actually struggling a little bit, and the Caitlyn's looking, I feel like, a bit scarier, and Grim might need some help.
Yeah, has gone for the Gale Force, has IBN, which is really interesting when we consider that last time went the Kraken Slayer on the Senna, despite the fact that there was a little bit of access to her in theory. This time, even with a composition from Miami that very clearly wants to be all up in the face of Wichita Wolves, has gone for that extra little bit of safety, extra little bit of mobility, and it's paying respect to people like Snow and Mabud that have secured themselves in the face of a very difficult game, a strong side of the map.
How they leverage it. Herald is coming up, and if you do have a strong top side of the map, you kind of got to play to it here. You have managed to find Lucent a couple of times, and are we going to see the 2v2 here?
I would delay it for now. I think they're waiting on a little bit of backup, but Grim actually cancels his recall and might have just canceled the entire contest of this Rift Heralds, even with that supposed strong side. They're not going to go for it.
I almost feel like when you've got a Jinx, you should be contesting these with your rockets, right? Like, we've seen so many rocket steals beating out smites. Just throw the bodies in there, throw Mabud and Snow. You can probably hang out in the 2v2 right now. You throw that rocket, maybe it's enough for you to turn the tides, but they don't contest it. And they didn't have enough protection in the mid lane. IBN and Cleave, that range advantage right now, that's all Red Hawks have to do. Rotate Cleave and IBN to whichever turret you want to take down and just let the Demolition crew do their job.
Yeah, Wichita's really missing their Anivia from last game that let them hold out on these outer towers for so much longer. At only the 17-minute mark, they're already missing all three of their outer layers of protection, giving free access to their jungle from Miami University, who have yet to lose control of one bit of the map, and now they can start being the ones pushing their vision aggressively forward.
Dragon in a minute 20. If we're going to push that aggressive vision, it has to be the bot side for both of these teams here. And I said it before, Dia, this is the one that I do want to see Wichita Wolves actually contest properly and just see what you can get on it. If you can get the dragon, or if, you know, you can even find some kills even if you can't get the dragon. And this time, Grim needs to use that super mega death rocket. If they're not in position for it, attempt the steal.
Yeah, Grim, interestingly enough, I'm going to say it again, has chosen to go for, I'm going to hold it, has chosen to go for the Gale Force as Snow gets out alive, thankfully, into the vision that Miami did place preemptively around that dragon. They've also managed to clear out a lot of Wichita's vision, and that's going to need to be amended if we want to see them contest this dragon, because they're not going to go blindly into it. It's something we've seen them opt out of before, and they will again.
Surely that Dark Binding over the wall into the pit must have clued in the side of Wichita Wolves that if you do not have vision going into this, you're walking into double sort of range with the CC and with all the poke and everything. Whoever is trying to get in there probably isn't going to make it alone. So you need to set the vision so that you can dodge that and then look for the engage. Again, eyes on Snow for that engage, followed up with the hero's entrance, and Grim on the backline firing.
After placing the wards, Miami secure themselves some mid lane priority and retreat back in with the Caitlyn traps lining one side, denying the flank from Mabud. They're going to feel free to start up this dragon, and now Mabud's gone mega as well, so there's only so long that Wichita Wolves have on this.
He's basically only got this small window, and he's already halfway back to mini right now. Grim's not even there.
Gone.
Well played from Red Hawks. They've waited this out.
And now they should be able to start this up for free. The trap line gets replaced. And Snow still needs to find some sort of way to initiate, because now he is their only one. The follow-up from PPN needs to be there. But Miami, they're taking the bet that it isn't and just straight up burning the dragon down. Yamo doesn't have the level advantage here. It's going to be a tricky smite, and he doesn't end up getting it as it gets taken away by Snow. Now can they win the team fight? The thing is, after picking off Snow, they don't have to. But Miami continue forward with Mayamo in the front line, looking for the slows. The ace of the hole follows up for a double kill, going over to Ivan, and the flashes are not enough to save the lives of Wichita Wolves. They stole the dragon, and for that, they will lose their lives.
Not even fault Wichita Wolves. This time it wasn't them giving up kills. This is just the composition from the Red Hawks when they're ahead with that Karma speed boost here and with that Turbo Chem Tank. Miyamo's just like a rocket running in, slamming, catching multiple people. They punish, and the Herald, which they held for so long right now, just cracking the base. This is not a Baron. That was just a Dragon.
And there's no more satisfying feeling than using the Herald to crack the base just as its mother comes up as well, because the next objective on the table for Miami University is going to be that Baron, and they've already got themselves such a huge lead to play with here that it should be theirs.
Set it up right away, Dia. They do need to set everything up, and I think in the back of their minds right now, they are fully aware that they just lost the Smite fight to Snow in a fight they had to have. Yes, you got kills on the back end of it here. That's good, but if you do that for a Dragon, kind of worth. You do that for a Baron, not worth at all here. So they cannot afford to let that happen, and what I expect to see is the Baron dance being set up here. Redhawks looking to potentially try and find a pick before they make the moves, and it starts by getting pressure on your other lanes. Lucent already down there, starting to split push, does have the teleport available here. I want to see the rest of Redhawks grouped up, a 4-1 push, and Pluto has to be careful.
Pluto isn't going to win this 1v2, not as support Karma. It's just the Moonstone Renewer Staff of Flowing Water. Not exactly the 1v2 build that some Karmas will choose to go. Lucent pushing in that bot side, though, is demanding attention and might have overstayed his welcome. Is going to pull a lot of attention, but seeing Snow down there, they're just going to start up this Baron. And even the Aurelia managing to disengage here is really big. This might just be Baron.
Onslaught of Shadows was used, did not find it here. TP's coming in.
But does not have Mega, and just him and PBN aren't going to be able to do anything. Onslaught of Shadows available, but Lucent, having teleported, is going to be able to start the fight before the rest of the team is there. They delete PBN, and that might be enough of a pick for them, as Lucent gets slowed up, actually, accidentally, almost getting caught out. The Mega Death Rocket cleans him up, and it's a 1-for-1 for right now. Ivan throws in the autos, uses the Gale Force to buy a little bit more but safety will be Miami University Redhawks, who are forced to back away until Mavad denies them. They're finding the stun. Ivan does manage to pick up the kill, but burns down in the meantime, and now Grim is free hitting into these grouped up members of the Redhawks. Miami are gonna have to back away once again after taking even more of a beating than they bargained for.
From Wichita. This is what I wanted to see from the Wolves last game when they were deep in the hole. Fight around the Baron. It is Redhawks pulling the trigger first, but it was onto PBN, who was so tanky. They managed to buy so much time for the rest of the team to collapse. And if it comes down to that ADC battle right now, Caitlyn versus Jinx, the difference seems to be that Grim can do AoE, IBN cannot.
No, it's such a problem when they can't focus down just that single target. Even though PBN did go down, the chaos that ensued from that point on left Miami with no answers, and they've got to continue playing that very clean macro, but this time they can't run back the same play. After having tossed Lucent's teleport, they've got to wait.
Dragon coming up in a minute though, so potentially that is what we're going to see the teams focus onto, and the Dragon, a much easier, squishier target to burn down. So whichever team sets up for it could potentially just kill the Dragon, pardon me, before the other side can respond. For Redhawks though, that last loss does not in any ways, mean, shape, and or form mean that they're going to lose the team fight. That really didn't mean that they were going to lose it. It's just that their target selection and the way that one played out was a little rough. IBN did get taken down by Snow. That Ignite coming in real handy there. So rather than saying that it's, Redhawks losing team fights, I think it's coming down more to which ADC is able to survive and who can actually get into the back line. Because Lucent wasn't able to punish Grim, but Snow to punish IBN.
Yeah, and you've got PBN and Snow, who should theoretically have free access, right? Just off the cooldowns alone, Onslaught of Shadows and the Heroic Entrance. If those two are up, it should be every ADC's nightmare, and Ivan should be on the back foot. But if they can set up Vision, Miami University, they do buy themselves, a little bit more time. Sanchito, that's actually a big cooldown.
All Grove gone already, so whoever goes in is going to be that little bit less tanky here. And yep, they're starting Infernal right away. There's no need
as soon as you see that go down, it's actually such a big advantage in the team fight. Cleave landing that, wow, actually manages to land the Dark Binding when it matters the most. Secures Soul Point off of the fact that Snow just couldn't get close enough.
I don't think Snow really could have stolen that one. Even the Dark Binding didn't land, but the Binding just guaranteed it. And Grim
Yeah, Grim almost goes down. That black shield buying Ivan so much space, and now you've got to reset with your 80k. Remember, if Grim can't fight, they can't contest the Baron, and there go Miami University Redhawks, daring them to come at them with Grim so low on HP.
A death rocket either, so Grim can't just fire from base and hope and pray that works. Right now, Wichita Wolves needs to stall this, and oh, the Redhawks is
I really like this. Mayamo, he can look for it and engage, has the Turbo Chem tank up. Although after dropping a sneaky little ward, it will be Wichita Wolves knowing that Miami have not started the Baron and being able to back away. That pick not going to net the Redhawks anything.
One, at this point, the game kind of stalled out because neither team really had engaged, and I wanted to see engage. We do now have engage on the teams. We've got the Galley, we've got the Nari, we've got the Hecarim for the side of the Wolves, and for the Redhawks here, Miyamo and Lucent have shown zero hesitation in pulling the trigger when they think they can get the kill. But the teams now are stalling for a different reason, and that's because neither of them are really confident they're gonna be able to win these fights. Redhawks are up in gold, have been able to catch the side waves a little bit better here, but they have struggled to keep IPN alive in the fights, and so they're hesitating. Whereas for the Wolves, they know they're behind in terms of kills, in terms of objectives, so they're being very careful of how they're picking their fights.
And I'm glad to see it, because last time we did see a little bit of just throwing your bodies at the enemy team and hoping you come out ahead. No, nice cheeky pickup on the Scuttle Crab is going to secure them some temporary vision around the Baron, but this sort of slow measured play, finding advantages like that where you can, is going to be a big difference maker for Wichita Wolves, and potentially one that could lead them to victory, especially if Grim is allowed to free scale up. It's very close to that Infinity Edge. Nobody's going to engage though, and might have overstepped just a little bit as Cleave is going to be able to lock everybody down. Into the back line goes the Justice Punch, or the heroic entrance, but Ivan is untouched. Eventually gets taken down by a clean Super Mega Death Rocket though. Grim is the one that gets to walk forward. Miyamo recommits, and Cleave is trying to pick up kills, but Lucent is the one that actually finds them, being able to sustain in the front line with this Aurelia. Isn't going to be able to buy nearly enough time, though. Does go down, and Grim is the only damage left on the Rift here, able to walk forward and zone out Miami University Redhawks single-handedly.
Say that Grim, the difference between Grim and Bien is that Grim's been staying alive and doing the AoE damage. You can see that it's still very difficult. There is no tank shred item built for Grim here. And so Miyamo and Lucent, they take a while to go down. And before they go down, they pump out tons of damage right now. The multiple threats coming through from Redhawks does manage to, we'll call it a win for them. They did get more kills at the end of the day, even though both teams kind of just walk away that with a handshake. No objectives go down. And really, they're just going to reset, get ready for that next fight. I'm not sure major item completions came through either. Maybe the Thornmill for Miyamo will certainly help against Grim, but already Miyamo not going down in these fights.
Yes, right there. I was so hoping that he was going to be able to pick up something crucial off of that great Super Mega Death Rocket onto Ivan, but it wasn't enough even through that team fight, and that major item not being completed lets Miami University actually take these 50-50s right now, because that's what the team fights are. They're 50-50s. We don't know who's going to come out on top, but once that IE gets complete, all of a sudden the dial starts to shift to 60-40 for Wichita Wolves, who do have Grim, who's been positioning and playing the team fight so well.
Not even about who gets the picks first, because now we've seen multiple times Snow getting picked. Like, Snow can step up there. Snow is not afraid, because Snow knows that even if he goes down here, the rest of the team can follow up, and maybe they win that fight. Things have been getting very dicey, and I want to point out that Wolves have been fighting evenly or winning without vision. The vision has always been in the Redhawks' favor. They've done a great job so far, and now Dragon in 30 seconds, they've got vision. They've got priority once again.
Pluto teleports in to try and stave off any aggression here, be there for his team. But with Lucent pushing bot lane, a little bit of stall could be exactly what the Miami University Redhawks need. Being hemmed into the jungle right now as Lucent is going to pop up, waiting for them around the Dragon, is actually a really risky spot here for the Redhawks.
Almost gone mega here, but that headshot when you're mini hurts so much. It chunks you way more than I feel like than it really should, but it hurts because when you get when you get hit, pardon me, when you're mini, when you go mega, the damage is kind of stays with you there.
Yeah, What really hurts me right now is seeing Mabud pop the Mega before they can even start the fight. This is again a time when Miami, they can just burn down the Dragon as long as Wichita Wolves don't have a vision and as long as they can stop this engage. Mayama starts it off with a stun onto Snow, but doesn't stop Hecarim from accessing the backline. Ivan, however, with the mobility, is going to be able to survive and shut him down. Is going to pick up yet another kill. Grim trying to lay down the AoE is being denied by Mayama's massive body in the front line, and it means no damage can come through for the Wichita Wolves. Miami handily take the fight. They're going to handily take the Dragon, even after that great Super Mega Death Rocket from Grim.
It's exciting to watch the Super Mega Death Rocket Dia, but I'm actually not sure it was worth burning there because now you have no attempt at the Dragon and more importantly, no attempt at the Baron. IBN survived that fight the first time in for the last 3 fights that we saw, and because IBN's alive, they get Soul, they get Baron, and they can probably push to maybe even end the game.
That push is going to have to be immaculate because as much as we're going to see 2 big buffs come in here for Miami University, Infinity Edge was just picked up by Grim, and as long as he doesn't end it right here, it's actually a team fight that they could win. If he dies right now, I think they just lose the game, though. That cleanse gets used early, almost goes down to headshot, and he gets picked off by Lucid. Wichita Wolves, they might have just lost the game right now as they lose 2 major picks right before the Baron falls.
Definitely lost the Baron. There's no contest in Baron for sure, and they will be back up in time to defend the inhibitors, or sorry, the Nexus turrets here. I don't actually think they'll be up in time for the inhibitors, so I expect to see one last big fight, but it's probably going to happen in the base of Wichita Wolves, and if the Wolves lose that fight, they lose the game. If they win that fight, they're still facing what is currently a 9,000 gold deficit. By the time they're in the base, probably a 10,000 gold deficit, and they'll have to win back-to-back fights.
I was fully watching that Grim health bar, thinking that the Baron had gone down. If that Baron falls and they get the pick at the same time, the game is just over. Fortunately for Wichita, Miami did delay everything just to make sure that that pick went off, that they were able to secure the Baron, and it gets them this big buff, but you're right, it doesn't win them the game. They've still got that team fight execution to overcome here, but they want to force the team fight with 4 members pushing in that mid lane, and Lucent in joining them up. Snow's gonna have to back off. Everyone is gonna have to back off, at least until Grim gets here, and it's gonna be so late. The inhibitor's just gonna fall first.
What is on the flank, but that's mini now. There's no Mega available, so the flank pressure just isn't there. It's not scary to see a cute little dino Yordle thing running at you there when there's just no health on it. You turn, you burn, it's dead. And now that's the mid lane already cracked open. They're now pushing down the top side with better siege composition as well.
Looking for some sort of engage there while Miami do wait for the minion wave to start the siege of their own. This Baron buff is going to put in the work, and so with the super minions that are already spawning and hurtling down the mid lane. The 4-man group up here, soon to be 5, as Wichita, they have no choice but to opt into this siege that Miami are able to throw out with the Karma Qs, the Morgana Qs. I've been poking them out. Is this even something that Wichita Wolves can win?
They have to fight, but they can't. The trap line is up as well, so they literally can't even cross that line. If they step on a trap, I feel like there might be enough burst with the Infernal Soul taking away that they might just go down here, and the turret should fall on this wave.
Grim throws in the rocket from the side, but it's barely tickling Mayamo. That's not the target, but Lucid finds targets of his own going forward. The AoE damage is there, but Mayamo manages to survive on his way out. Now with 1 pickoff, can they find the rest? BBN goes golden at, what is it, 2 HP? And gets picked off instantly. Lux is able to survive the crit from Grim, and now Lucid turns his attention to the AD carry in the backline. Cleans up 1, cleans up 2, but leaves the Jinx for last as Mayamo crushes her under his paws, secures the ace, and now Miami University Redhawks, they are going to secure the 2-0 in the quarterfinals against Wichita Wolves Black. Risen Divinely will continue with the Redhawks, the stronger team.
Goodness, tonight, Dia, somebody had to lose a series, and it was unfortunately the Wolves. The Red Hawks looked very, very clean, and even with their new mid laner coming in for Troy, Pluto here, Pluto just slotted right in, and it 100% works. The Red Hawks play a better macro game throughout, and when it came down to it, IBN did not fall, managed to just carry on this Caitlyn.
That it was absolutely insane, the performance that we saw from Miami University Redhawks. I love that you mentioned Ivan because holy moly, the fact that Caitlyn was able to pull it all the way through the mid game and show it to us in the end was massive. But so was Lucent, so was Mayamo, and so was Pluto, a new member coming into
Mhm.
today. I was very happy with the way that the team adapted to his champion pool and was able to pull out not one but two wins.
Top of that, I do want to point out for the Wolves, their journey is not over. The playoffs for Risen has a losers bracket. So despite their loss tonight, they still have a chance to make it to the grand finals and win it all here. They've just got to go through a tougher bracket. So they do have a second life down in the losers bracket. They will have to play more games. Red Hawk only have one more match to play before the grand finals here, and they'll get to sit back and watch the other teams sort of play their way through, gather that information, and judging by how the Red Hawks have played, giving them information is exactly how they win games.
It's so terrifying the way that they dismantled. Um, yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. I was thinking about it the way they dismantled Snow in the first game and then continued that pressure onto him in the second game, even with the ignite, even with the Hecarim, that we expected to step up even more. And I think, as I notice here, I think we have an interview. So I'm gonna actually throw this over to all of us, joined now by Pluto.
Pluto, can you hear us?
Pluto's muted.
Okay.
We're gonna have to get somebody to unmute Pluto.
Well,
Maybe he'll type to us while
we'll
we're.
have that sorted out hopefully soon here. And in the meantime, we'll continue singing the praises of the Red Hawks because they've won tonight and they deserve it. And teams facing up against them in the future will have to be aware that this is not a team you can kind of exploit or pick apart, right? We're talking about IBN playing weak side a lot with the Jinx, with the Senna. Now, with the Caitlyn, this was not a weak side Caitlyn. They dominated the lane with the Caitlyn Morgana combo here.
Nobody's. Yeah, I kind of laugh at the idea of the weak side Caitlyn, but you're right that it is something that Miami have been playing a lot. I think we got Pluto here. Pluto, I can hear you. Hello, welcome to the desk.
Hey,
Thank you so much for joining us here post game.
thank you for having me.
Now, I want to start this one off because I had a lot of questions around you coming into the series, as I'm sure everybody did. How has your
Mhm.
integration into the team been on what I expect to have been very short notice?
Yeah, so, I was a sub support. I came in, I filled the mid lane role. I'm gapping everyone. It's like, whatever.
That's true. How much practice time did you actually get with the team before this game?
Scrim or two, but that's all I needed.
Well, clearly, like you say, gapping all over the place. RMC.
So, Pluto, I want to talk a little bit about the draft here because I'm not sure who handles the drafts, but I noticed your champions. You went Set and you went Karma. It's both sort of support role champions. So, was that something that you had to do because you're a support, or is that something that your team's doing because they don't trust you?
Um,
No,
a little bit of both,
come
but
on, do it to him.
it was a little bit of both. But I was very confident on the champions. And like even in scrims, like I was just popping off on set. I like they had to ban it, of course. Playing into Anuvia isn't the funnest, but I mean it's still respected a band, even though
Mhm.
uh, it didn't do too much in game one. But yeah,
Yeah, and I actually, speaking of, you did end up playing the set into the Anivia. I want to ask, with this sort of support role that you did play during both games, at least in terms of the champions, how
Hmm.
that translated into your game plan. Who was the person that you prioritized the most in terms of either keeping safe or shutting out on the side of Wichita Wolves?
It depends on champion. When I'm playing set, I mean, I'm just looking at their front line and I'm looking to destroy on their back line. Just absolutely obliterate their back line, not make them be able to play the game. When I'm playing Karma, I'm like in that comp, we were just looking to protect the Caitlyn. It was just like stand on Caitlyn. They can't play the game if I just shield her.
Yeah. Did you feel like there was a challenge thrown into the mid lane or into any other lane? Did you feel like Miami had to adapt in some sort of tangible, some sort of tangible way this series, or was this just sort of
Um,
fundamentals for you?
Not really. I mean, it was pretty much the same. It's just what we
Mm.
were practicing. It's how we played before.
That's so spooky, man. That's so spooky. Go
I
ahead,
mean that,
RMC.
that that bodes well for your team if you can just plug and play like that. And now looking forward here, Pluto, you guys have qualified into the semifinals, and you'll be facing either 8-bit esports or synthetic esports here. Do you have a preference, and or is there a team that you want to particularly play against or avoid here for the rest of the bracket?
Not really. I mean, I don't think any of them are going to be too much of a challenge.
I love the confidence, Pluto.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you a last question because I feel like you got them. And that is, do you have anybody that you want to thank or shout out in the interview?
Troy won. He's helping me learn this role. It is definitely not my native role, but he's helping a lot for sure.
You're crushing it. I can't wait to see more of you on the stages. I really enjoyed the look from Miami University today, and I thank you for joining us on the interview. Much in the same way that I want to thank all of you in the chat for not only joining us for these awesome games, Miami University Redhawks coming away the winners against Wichita Wolves Black, who both played really well. Miami University crushing it in the end, and I'm glad that you were here to witness it with me here at RMC. I had a great time tonight. I want to thank Jay Dodging, who was running production the entire time, and once again, to all of you who tuned in to see these fabulous teams. I look forward to seeing you as Risen Divine will continue into the semifinals that were teased today, and now even the finals, as tune into the semis to see whether Miami University Redhawks will make it. It has been a banger of a series. I look forward to the future, and we'll catch all of you next time here on Risen Divine League.